Their memories of life in South Carolina are still fresh. From the house that once stood along this highway,
These are the flowers that were there when we were growing up, the same flowers.
to the state park that banned them because they're black. Willie Reed and his sister Catherine are two of 7 kids raised by their grandmother on Edisto Island. It was the summer of 1960, the civil rights movement well underway, and even small communities like Edisto saw segregation firsthand. Back then, whites could come and go on the beach whenever they liked, but blacks were only allowed if they were there to work. It was also a time of deep sadness for the family because it was the last summer they'd have with 12-year-old Freddie. His brother Charles, now a New York City bus driver, remembers. A friend had invited Charles and Freddie to work a day on a shrimp boat. Their grandmother said no, but the next morning, Freddie went anyway.
By the time my grandmother ran to the window and told Freddie to stop, they were gone. And that was the last time we ever seen them.
Freddie's body was found here 2 days later.
Somebody pulled him up, out of the water. And he was laying right out there.
Willie and Catherine always thought Freddie drowned, but Freddie's brother Charles thinks race may have had something to do with his death.
He used to love to dance, and the little white girls down there loved to see him dance. So he used to teach the little white girls how to dance. And my thing is that I think that didn't go too well with some of the white people down there.
Freddie was buried, and the story of his death made national news. Reports at the time quoted the NAACP in New York, saying Freddie's eyes were gouged out and his skull was crushed. The coroner maintained Freddie's skull was intact and his eyes were likely eaten by crabs. His body was exhumed and re-examined, and the coroner stuck by his initial findings. No charges were filed because, as far as the officials were concerned, no crime had been committed. But almost 47 years later, Charles Robinson is not so sure justice has been done.
I really think that whatever took place to Freddie took place before he was thrown or whatever in the water.
While his family admittedly doesn't have hard evidence to prove that Freddie was murdered, they welcome the fact that the Justice Department is willing to take another look at a case long forgotten and a little boy who never was.
The last 2 years that I was living on Edisto, knowing I was at his funeral, but each time I would see somebody walking afar, I'm hoping that it was him. And for years I was looking down the highway, hoping that he would come home.
Don Lemon, CNN, Atlanta.